Hi, I'm Rod Sowden, lead author of MSP, and I'd like to talk to you about the most common cause of failure in a programme. All right? And when I die and they inscribe my headstone, I hope it says the bloke that went on about blueprints a lot. So, blueprints. When I did my first MSP programme back in '99, I remember seeing in the book this paragraph about blueprints, about knowing where you had to go. And that was a big restructuring programme. I spent a lot of time working out what that meant. And when I finished my blueprint, I realised that the process of creating the blueprint was invaluable. And the data that you had available, because you really thought through the options, meant that the stakeholder engagement became a lot easier. Okay, so most programs, in fact all programs that we come across that fail, don't have a blueprint. Most programs are inadequate. All right, so the things to think about: what happens if you don't have a blueprint? Number one, you don't know what projects you're going to need. All right, because the blueprint is telling us this is where we are today and this is where we're going to be in the future. Okay, so we need to create the future with projects. So if you've got a blueprint, you're guessing at your projects. Okay. Number two, you won't be able to work out your benefits. Yeah? Because the reason for going there is benefits, which I'll explain a little bit more about in a minute. All right? So why don't people do blueprints? Number one, they're hard. Yeah? Sitting down and thinking what your program is going to create and put in place in 3 or 5 years' time, with all the ambiguity in the world, is really hard. Yeah? And it means that you have to accept some quite nasty decisions are on their way. So it's easier to bypass those nasty decisions, start launching projects, and hope everything turns out right in the end. Number two, number one is hard. Number two, model. Most organisations don't have a model for creating a blueprint, and most of the people in programs come from project world where they've never had to create this concept of a business future state, and most of the people coming out of operations have never really thought about what the future state could be. Therefore, we don't have a model to deal with it. So I would advise you to go and have a little look at a thing called TOGAF, all right, which is a business architecture model, and it actually gives you a framework in which to think through what you need to do. But beware of TOGAF people. They're a little bit bonkers and they use a completely different set of vocabulary to the rest of the world. So don't go to the pub with them. Right, so those are some things to think about with blueprints. They're hard to do. Most people haven't got a model to do it and they don't have the skills to do it. So they bypass it, they guess at the projects, and guess what? Benefits don't turn up. So those are the issues you need to think about. So why is it important? Apart from all those reasons I've just said. Okay, I just want to explain in a different drawing how this works. Programs are always about delivering change. Okay, whether it's a high-speed 2, whether it's a restructure, downsizing, new economic models after Brexit, programs deliver change. So, this is where we are today. All right, and we call that the as-is. Now, in MSP, we talked about a model called potting. All right, process, what we do, organisation, how we do it, tools and technology, the things we do it with, and the management information that we use to manage the environment we're in. So that's how we work today, and if we did nothing, it would stay constant, or relatively consistent, or get battered by the normal stuff that goes on. So what we're looking for is we want to get over here. So a new operating state, okay? 3, 4, 5 years away. One of the things that we have to deal with is the volatility of the world. So MSP's come up with this great solution called the intermediate blueprint, which says, okay, on the way, like maybe, I don't know, 1 year in, 2 years in, 3 years in, these are the things we'll focus on because actually the world could change. Now, if you were delivering a program a year ago in the public sector, in the UK is probably now out the window because of Brexit, because the whole thing's out the window. So you only focus on a reasonable planning horizon, but with a long-term aim involved. Okay. Part of the reason for that is, if you look at the research from the National Audit Office, most of the failed programmes don't have stop points or closure points or get out of jail points. Okay, so that's why MSP developed that based on that experience. So what we'll do is we will, in those periods, we might focus on changing the organisational structure, changing the process, changing the technology wall, or whatever it is. And who's going to do that? These are our projects. So the projects are making these changes, yeah, because they're building our capability. And then we've got our step changes, or this is the end of a tranche, after which we look at benefits. But most importantly in this, where are our benefits coming from? The benefits are actually the difference between where we are today and where we go in the future. The work to understand the as-is state gives us our baseline measures for benefits, and there is the future state measures that we use to calculate our benefits. Okay, so benefits management, so that's our journey. Yeah, there's our program plan, covers this little lot. All right, so none of this, we cannot have benefits without a blueprint. And if we're doing an assurance, your program, the first question you're going to ask is, where's your blueprint? Because if you ain't got one, we know that your benefits ain't going to work, and we know that your program plan's built on sandy foundations at best. Okay, so hopefully that shows how benefits, tranches, which are these bits, and projects, which are changing these bits, fit together. So programs without blueprints are flawed. Right, now I want to do one more quick thing, because I'm taking up a lot of your valuable time, and talk to you very quickly about the concept of potty. Process, organisation, tools, and information. Because I've seen so many people training this going, oh, you have 4 headings in a document. Forget it, right? That's not how it works. First of all, we've got a process. Yeah, a bunch of steps to get a job done. All right, there's our process. At the start of our process, we've got some sort of information. Management info, yeah, which is, here's the data you need to kick the process off. And then as we run through the process, underpinning it, we're going to have some infrastructure. All right, now that can be IT, infrastructure. That can be IT, buildings, anything, machinery. That's what we operate our process on. And up here, we've got people. Because people operate the process and the infrastructure supports it. Okay? So those people could be employees, they could be supply chain, they could be anything. And as you move through the process, the people may well change, or the suppliers may well change. And then at the end, we get something out, including management info. So there you see your potty. Okay, so I've got P1, P2, P3, which is the 3 steps in the process. That's where your potty comes from, right? So there's your O for organisation. There's your T for tools and technology. Here is your P for process. And here is the I, management information. So it's a joined up thing, right? So you've got to use tools like swim lane diagrams and all that kind of stuff. But what it isn't is a document with 4 completely unconnected lists of bullet points in, which I've seen far too often, and particularly I've seen it trained that way, which is really bad. Anyway, hopefully you found that a little bit more useful, and if you need any help, give us a shout.